So first off, let's set the scene. Imagine it's 7 p.m. and you're working on this pitch book. You've just received an email from your MD requesting revisions of the deck for a client meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. So the challenge begins. You need to find and organize the relevant slides and data, ensure formatting is consistent within your firm's branding, and update charts, tables, and visuals with the latest data. Sound familiar? Let's see how this typically plays out with UpSlide. So I have my pitch book built out for the acquisition of our target tech fab. However, I need to add and change a few things. So let's get started with my table of contents. I want to make some changes to the sections. They're not in the order I want, and I need to rename a few. This is where I can use my outline pane to help me better structure my pitch book. The outline pane is a top view of all of my sections and slides and will let me easily rename and rearrange my navigation deck. So I'll wait a couple of seconds for that to open. There you go. So here on the right, you'll see a pane's opened up and it lists all of my sections that I have within my pitch book. It also has the slides that are contained within those sections. And the bits that I want to change, I want to make sure I have my executive summary above my introduction. So the thing I'll have to do then is hold down the executive summary and drag and drop on top of the introduction. And as you can see, the slides that are contained within the sections also move with the sections. I also want to rename market analysis to market positioning. And now I've made my changes. Those of you with a keen eye can probably see that the agenda actually hasn't updated just yet. But all I need to do is use my refresh button. And with one click, that will then update all of those changes that I've just made at once. And this ensures that all of the page or the slide numbers are as they should be within the exact same section numbers that I've also moved around. So from my outline, I'm going to navigate to my introduction. And looking at my introduction and the slides, I've realized I haven't actually inserted the overview of our firm, and it's a pretty important slide, but I can easily access this from the library. So you'll find the library just here. So the library is a shared repository of all branded, frequently used and up-to-date slides, decks and objects, making it easier to insert what I need into my pitch book without having to worry that the content may be out of date. This has boosted collaboration between my team as well as the firm, and it saves time having to go searching for the relevant content. Just to note, my library will look a little bit different to yours as it's tailored to each individual firm. So let's go in and find my overview slide by searching. So I have a little preview box at the bottom, and I found my slide. I'm just going to hover over it to make sure it's the correct one. It also tells me when it was last edited, so I know it's the most recent. I then go and click where I'd like to have that slide inserted, double click, and there you have it. My slide's inserted, as easy as that. And like I said, now it's inserted. I don't need to worry that this isn't in date. We do have someone specifically within our team that is dedicated to update the library content whenever there are any revisions. So the next slide that my MD has highlighted is they want to ensure that we're showcasing past deals of the firm under $20,000 between the years 2022 and 2024 within financial advisory. So here, of course, I'll need to add in my credentials. And where this typically takes some time to build the tombstones and source them, I can access my tombstones library from my UpSlide library just here. The tombstones are built specifically for my company. I can access past deals directly within my PowerPoint in a tombstone format without having to build and format them myself from scratch. So let's put in all of those filters that my MD has suggested. So let's put in $20,000 deal size, the completion date between 2022 and 2024, and all within financial advisory. So I'm just going to hit apply. And about 12 deals have now shown up within my tombstone library. All I need to do is click on the selection box to select them all, but I want to make sure that they're also sorted by completion year because I want them in ascending order. Now that that's selected, I'm going to go ahead and click Insert. And I know what you're thinking. There are 12 tombstones here. How are they all going to fit on this slide nice and neatly? But UpSlide, after then I insert my tombstones, will give me the option to select an area where I'd like to then arrange my tombstones. So once I've selected that, it will then give me the option to then split those tombstones across 3 slides. Once I click on that, what UpSlide will do is then duplicate my slide, making sure that the formatting is the same across all 3 slides. It's also arranged all of my tombstones nice and neatly in the area that I'd like it to. So this has saved me a whole lot of time on those manual tasks of having to drag and drop and reformat all of my tombstones and slides. Now that's sorted, I'm going to move on to my team slide. Now, with my dynamic libraries, you can also store your team CVs within the library just here. And this is my bios library. This makes it easy to access and insert these into your pitchbooks. However, I'm happy with how my team slide looks right now, but if I wanted to add or swap any members of my team, it will be easy to do so by searching them from here. I can search by team, title, by location or office, or I can directly just search for my team member from the search bar. Both my deals or past deal library and bios library are built into my UpSlide library, so it's really easy for me to access these when needed. Brilliant. So next thing my MD has flagged is my company overview section is looking a little bit messy. So let's go on to my About TechFab slide. Now, my company overview of TechFab isn't looking super fab at the moment, excuse the pun. So I'm going to go ahead and use my formatting toolbar and my colors toolbar, which you'll find just here. Now, don't worry if you can't see these just yet. These are very new features, so they may not be within the version that you have right now. However, as Liz mentioned, you can go up to the settings and go over to the preview tab and make sure that the preview mode has been toggled on. And that way you can start using these 2 features. Now, what are the formatting toolbars and color toolbars? So the formatting toolbar is where I can access all of my UpSlide formatting and alignment tools in one place. The colors toolbar is where all of my company colors are stored and where I can then format fills, outline, as well as text throughout my pitchbook. Now, with these 2 toolbars, I'd like to have these open up automatically as soon as I open my PowerPoint. And to do so, all I need to do is click on this ellipsis and then select Open when PowerPoint starts. That way, these toolbars will then open as soon as I open my PowerPoint. So let's start formatting this slide. Now, the pins of my office locations are all in different colors, but I want them all to be in the same color, of course, for consistency purposes. What I want to do first is select one of my pins, and in order to select all of the pins on the map without having to manually do so, I can go to my Select Similar Shapes tool. I can choose which parameter I'd like to select similar shapes by. So I'm going to select height, as all of these pins are the same height. All of them have now been selected, and I can now go over to my colors toolbar and select the color I'd like to fill them in. So I'm going to select my purpley blue color. And within a few seconds, all of my pins are now the same color. Now, you're all probably looking at these flags and thinking, they're not looking so great and they're not very aligned and they're all different shapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the flag I'd like to have as all of the sizes of my flags. So I'm pretty happy with the size of my Singapore flag here. And I want to copy the size of this flag over onto the other flags. So I'll be using my Smart Paint tool within my formatting toolbar. And this will allow me to choose the parameters that I'd like to copy over from my Singapore flag to the other flags. So I want to copy over the size, so the height and the width. And what I can then do is select the rest of my flags by using my Select Similar Shapes. And this time I'm going to select them by outline, as the outline of the flags are all white. And this, as you can see, has now resized all of my flags at once. But they're not arranged very well just yet, so this is where I'll then use my Arrange tool within my formatting toolbar. With my flag selected, once I click on Arrange, it will then let me choose where I'd like to have them arranged. So the pink box at the bottom, of course, is the one that I'd like to arrange it in. Select that and then select your arrangement. And this will then arrange your flags nice and neatly within that box. So this slide is looking much better already, but there's a final tweak I'd like to do. I want to make this text box outline be the same color as the main headings within my text box. So I simply select the box and I'll just go over to my color toolbar again and select the outline option for the purple color. Now this slide is looking really consistent and neat, really happy with it. So let's move on to the next one. So within my company overview, there's also a slightly more text-heavy overview slide that we have for TechFab. However, my MD suggested that the text on the left should really be in the text box at the top. However, we want to keep the formatting of the text boxes the same, respective to each text box. So instead of copying and pasting constantly and making sure that I've got the formatting correct whenever I've changed the text, all I can do is use the swap text tool by selecting my text boxes, and I'll go over to my formatting toolbar, and my swap text will then swap the text without affecting the formatting of each text box. I want to further refine my text boxes now. The margins are looking a little bit squashed, things are looking a little bit congested, so I'm going to be using my margins manager within my formatting toolbar to revert back to our default margins, but I'm going to go a step further. I actually want to make the margins slightly larger because I feel it'll look a little bit better. So I'll go over to custom margins, increase my margins, and like that, I've cleaned up my text boxes. The final thing I want to do is change the color of these two boxes here so that they're in a bit more of an UpSlide color. So I'll go over and select them, go over to my colors toolbar again, and then select the color of my choice. And my slide is looking a whole lot better. So with these two panes, I was able to fix these two slides with minimal manual input by using these two new robust features simultaneously. Brilliant. So I realized I left my market positioning comparable analysis slide and I hadn't inserted the logos because typically this does take a little bit of time to do. So usually for this, I'd need to then find all the relevant logos for the companies listed. And typically I would have to then go into a search engine and then source all of the correct SVG, PNG images that are up to date for each company. This would take a little bit of time to do this properly. However, with UpSlide, I have my logo finder within the library, just here. And this is where I can access thousands of up-to-date logos in the correct format for various companies. So let's go ahead and insert them. So I have my search bar. Let's put in all of my companies listed, so KPMG, and I can then search them all together without having to do individual searches for each company, saving me that much more time. Hit enter, and then your logo finder will then search all of those companies and list all of the available logos. So all you need to do is go in, select the logos you'd like to insert, have a little check at the bottom. So this is almost like a bit of a shopping cart. You've got all of the logos you'd like to insert at the bottom. Check you have all of them and go ahead and click insert. And then what UpSlide will do is prompt you to choose an area within which you'd like to insert or position your logos. So of course, I'm going to choose this box here. You then can position your logos like so. And if you've noticed, my Santander logo is sort of overlying my box. I can actually go in and change the size of all of the logos. But then, of course, my EY logo has become a bit small. So I can go in, select my EY logo, and make that slightly larger directly from this pane. Fantastic. So I've finished creating my comparable analysis slide, which would have usually taken me around 10 minutes to find all of the high resolution PNG or SVG files. It's now taken me around a minute or two. So now that I've completed and refined my comparable analysis, the financial projections are now ready to be linked over from my Excel models within my workbook over to my PowerPoint. And for this, I'm going to be using the Excel to PowerPoint link. So let's go ahead and open up my Excel workbook. And the Excel to PowerPoint link you'll find just here in the ribbon. And This will enable me to link over charts, tables, and single cell values to my Pitchbook, giving me the ability to revise data in Excel and update this seamlessly and efficiently within my Pitchbook. My projected income statement table here is already in UpSlide branding and ready to be linked over. So I'm going to go ahead, select my table, move over to my Pitchbook and make sure I select the placeholder I'd like to have the table in. Go back to Excel and resize and export my table. And just like that, you then link over your projected income statement table. And this has been linked over as an enhanced meta file. So this ensures my deck remains light in megabytes and avoids slowing down my PowerPoint, especially if my deck is around 60 or 70 slides long. I can now go on to link over my income statements table, as well as my net sales chart. However, I remember a separate team within our firm manages the data for the income statements. They may need to adjust the data within this table once it has been linked over, but they don't have access to the source Excel file. So that team can format the table easily within PowerPoint, I'll be linking this table over as a PowerPoint table. So let's go back into our Excel, and here's my income statement table. Want to indicate where I want to have that linked over. Go over to the Excel link and just simply select Export Selection as PowerPoint Table. So it's looking like this for now, but directly within PowerPoint, I can change the table style into more of an UpSlide format. And additionally, with a few changes to the font size, making them a little smaller, I can then resize my table so that it fits within my slide nice and neatly. Now, with this table in place, the team or they can adjust and format the data directly within PowerPoint, whilst having the confidence that the source data has one source of truth within my Excel workbook. I can now go on to export my net sales chart to my slide. Now, as you can see, the chart isn't in UpSlide format. However, I can use Smart Format to quickly convert this into our branding, saving time on having to manually format each component of my chart, which can take quite a few minutes. So by selecting my chart, I'm just going to go over and click on Smart Format, and this will then convert my chart into UpSlide branding. Now, if we go back into PowerPoint, onto my Pitchbook, I'm going to select where I'd like to have that exported, and then go back into my Excel and select Resize and Export. Now, this has resized my chart, but if you notice, it hasn't skewed the data. It's adjusted the data accordingly so that it's still super accurate to the data in Excel, and it's adjusted the axis accordingly as well. The last thing my MDs requested for me to add into this slide is the EBITDA 2023 value. Now, what I'll then do here is simply select my placeholder and go back into my Excel and select my EBITDA 2023 value. Click on the Excel to PowerPoint link button and choose to export this as text. And just like that, my EBITDA value has been put in as a link. Now, I have the option to hide this link just so that it's not standing out within the text. However, my MDs requested that I leave this on so that they don't change or delete this figure by mistake whenever I send it over to them. So now all of my links have been exported over into PowerPoint. I've actually just received an email from my MD requesting for some revisions for some of these data points and formatting. So we're going to be going back into Excel and let's make those changes. Now, what they've requested is for the tax expenses for 2025 to be highlighted in a color so that it stands out. The total profit and loss line at the bottom should be in a bold format. So I can go into my font styles, apologies, and then select the bold format. My income statement table, the gross margin actually should be 1,000. And this in turn has actually also changed my EBITDA 2023. And lastly, I realized myself, my CAGR values aren't in percentage format. So I'll go into my number gallery and I can then select and choose to change that to percentage. The last thing that my MD wanted me to change is the net sales on my chart should be in a yellow color. So now that I've made those changes, I'm going to go back into PowerPoint and I'm going to update all of these links using the Excel Link Manager. Now, the Excel Link Manager is a user-friendly tool that allows you to update several links at the same time, view them by slide or by workbook source, as well as check the last updated date and source of your links. So right now, I'm viewing my links as source. I can also view them as slides, but I'd like to update them by source so I can update them all at once. My workbook is called Webinar Book 1 V1. So here are all of the links that are contained within my PowerPoints that are coming from this particular workbook. I'm going to go ahead and select that workbook and click Update. So now that it's starting to update those links, as you can see, my projected income statement, that tax expense in 2025, those figures have now been highlighted in purple. It's now updated my line style at the bottom to be bold. And within my statements or my income statement table, my CAGR values are now in percentage format, as they should be. My gross margin for 2023 is 1,000. My EBITDA has also updated within my table, as well as my text link that I've linked over. And my net sales for 2021 is now in that yellow color as well. So just like that, I was able to then update all of my links at once, not having to go in and then copy and paste and revise my data and make sure that everything is on and updated. So now that I've linked over my data set to my Pitchbook, before I send this out to my MD, I want to make sure it's perfectly polished so that they won't come back to me for any further revisions and have me working even later in the evening. So let me go ahead, close my Excel Link Manager, and I'm going to be using the slide check function for this. So the slide check will ensure a refined final check to be sure of any common errors like double spacing, alignment, punctuation, highlighted text, as well as placeholders that they're detected. So my slide check has picked up that I have a couple of double spaces. So I may have been a bit too excited, typed things out a bit too fast and caused a double space to occur. So I'm going to go ahead and fix all of those at once. It's also picked up that I've left highlighted text on my executive summary slide, as well as the EBITDA 2023. So I can go in and remove those all at once. It's also detected a couple of misalignments on my shapes, but I can fix this quite easily with just one click. And punctuation spacing, I've left a couple of extra spaces between my full stops, but I can go in and fix this with one click. Brilliant. So now that I've thoroughly gone through my deck with a fine-tooth comb, it's time to send this off and be done before dinner time, hopefully. So for this, I'm going to be using the send feature. So if you click on send, this will give you the option to send your Pitchbook as a full presentation, or you can send selected slides, but of course I'll be sending my full presentation. You can then name your file here. So I'm just going to be naming this final. You can choose which format you'd like to send your Pitchbook in, so PowerPoint, PDF, or both. So I'll select both. You also have the final option to do a final refresh. So this means that you're refreshing your section dividers, reminders, table of contents, page numbering, so on and so forth, to make sure everything is in line and numbered correctly. I'm not going to break my Excel links, of course, in case I need to make any more revisions and my MD comes back with me with a few more changes. And the last thing, and probably the most important for me, I know that whenever I'm working through a Pitchbook, I always put in notes, comments to make sure that my colleagues know what changes they need to make and remind myself, more importantly, which changes I need to make. But of course, I don't want to contain these in my Pitchbook to my MD. So this is a great feature. Once you tick this, this means it will remove all of your comments that you have on your Pitchbook. And finally, once that's all done, you can hit send. Now, this will open up into an Outlook email draft where the pitchbook will already be attached for you in both formats. All you need to do is then pop in your MD's email, type in your email body, and you're ready to send it off.